Good afternoon, ladies and gentlemen. We have a new world champion. The 14th game of the World Chess Championship match between the challenger Gukesh of India and Ding Liren of China has finally come to an end. On the white side of Catalan sort of position, the world champion tried one more time to try to make something happen, but it was not meant to be. The challenger Gukesh from India was able to create a lot of complications, and somehow along the line, I think the world champion kind of just self-destructed because the position was kind of looking even until the point where I think he tried to create a pass pawn on the queen side. He had a two against one. So, but I think in this match, I think Gukesh won because he wanted this the more. Dinkley was pretty much just trying to stay alive. And of course, really can't blame Dinkley because there's a whole lot that went into this. And yes, we really have a new world champion. So let us get right into the game and see how this game went down. So knight f3 was played by Ding Liren, d5, g3, c5, bishop to g2, knight to c6, d4. This is kind of like a Zukertort reversed variation. So e6, castles, take on d4, takes back on d4, knight ge7. So already black is looking good because he has his knight in the game. Um, the bishop can get to e7 once the knight gets out. He can always find a way to develop his bishop on b7 or even bring it to d7 if there's a need for it. So already black's position is all right. And white has to find out a way to develop his other minor pieces, especially the one on the queen side. And after the move knight ge7, c4 makes a lot of sense because now you're trying to bring this bishop on g2 to life. Um, yes, you're trying to bring this bishop on g2 to life along that long diagonal. So captures on d4, captures back, knight comes to c6, gains the tempo on the queen. Queen goes to d1, d4, tries to get some space. e3 challenges the pawn immediately. Bishop to b4 protects the pawn and also trying to lay some claim on the d4 square. This has to be problematic for white because the d4 belongs to white, but from the way it is right now, black owns that square. Captures on d4, captures back with the bishop. Knight to c3. Already they are actually trying to have some very, very funny kind of positions. Now after knight to c3, if for example, if black takes, right, I think white can take check first, and if it takes, I think it can take the queen check, and if it takes, and then it takes that. So we have this situation on the board, which position just pretty much even. So white has the two double pawns on the c file. Black has a double isolated pawn. Black has an isolated pawn on the c6 square, and of course, having opposite colored bishops, that means this game is going to go into another drawn game. But that was not meant to be in this game. So, of course, bishop takes wasn't done in this game, but instead, after the move knight to c3, black castles. So knight to b5. That's a good move by Dinglering. You're going to put in pressure on the bishop. There's a possibility of the bishop coming to f4, putting pressure on the d6 and c7 squares. So after knight to b5, bishop b6. Very important. You cannot give up that bishop. I say this a lot of times. When you have a bishop in an open position, you have to try and keep that bishop for as long as possible. So bishop to b6 is played. Not the best move by Gukesh. According to the engine, e5 would have been a very good move. But anyway, bishop to b6 was played. B3. I really like white's position because bishop comes to b2. Queen goes to e2, rook a d1, rook f e1, and white is just looking very good. I mean, considering black has to figure out how to develop the bishop on c8, not a good square for that bishop for now. So right now, I mean, white is looking really good, and yeah, let's see how this game continued. So b3 was played, a6. You have to kick that knight. You can't let the knight stay on the square b5 for too long. Knight has to come to c3. Of course, you don't want to go to d6 because bishop here gains a tempo on the rook and the knight is trapped. So we don't want that situation. So knight comes to c3, knight moves to c3. Bishop goes back to d4, pinning the knight to the rook immediately. Bishop to b2, that's the best square for the bishop. It doesn't just defend the knight, but he also has this long pressure on this long diagonal. e5 is played. Queen to d2. I really don't like queen d2 that much. I would have preferred a move like queen to e2 so that I can vacate to d file for the rook. You know. So queen d2 was played. Bishop e6, knight d5. Um, yeah, knight d5 is alright. But also, I really want to engage my rooks as quick as possible. So knight d5 is played. But one thing white has to be careful about is after the knight d5, b5 can actually be possible. Getting rid of the pawn that is protecting the bishop on d5. So that's why I would have preferred like a move like a rook a d1. Probably rook a d1. But knight d5 is played. Nothing wrong with knight d5. b5 captures on b5, captures back. Knight to f4. Now white is trying to solve the problems on the board tactically. After knight to f4, of course you cannot take here because this is hanging. And if you take here, queen simply takes back. And I think white is looking good here. So takes on f4, bishop takes on c6, takes on b2, queen takes on b2, rook to b8, getting away from the danger and protect the pawn on b5. Let's look at this position and just try to figure out what is going on. Same colored bishop, that means, it's not, chances of draw can be a little slim. I mean, chances of draw can be a little slim since they have the same colored bishop, because that means the bishop can always force an exchange for somebody that has an extra pawn to win the game. So, bishop, rook b8 was played, rook to d8, rook f to d1. Rook f to d1. I think I like that move, rook f to d1. What's the point of rook f to d1? Of course, it's very obvious. Putting pressure on the queen and also keeping an eye on the d file. And of course, the other rook is going to come to c1. And white is just looking good in this position. So, queen goes to b6, bishop to f3, take on g3, takes back. b4 is a very interesting move by black. Pretty much he's trying to say, what, I'm going to move my pawn to b4. The b4 pawn stops your two pawns from moving. But nothing to be worried about, really. For for white, you could pretty much rook d4, you double your rooks on the d4, and, nothing really much to worry about. So, this is a very even position. But a4 was played by Ding Liren. I think I don't like this move. I don't like this move because number one, what's the point? Now, think about this. The only weakness you have right now is the pawn on a2, which can be defended with the queen and a rook. And even if you have attacks on that, if you have a possible way to attack this pawn as many times, anytime you win this pawn on a2, you stand a chance of losing this pawn on b4. But now think about what happened. After the a4 pawn move, takes back. Now we have 1, 2, 3 attacking b3. So b3 is going to be a weaker pawn to defend than the pawn on a2. At this point, this is the point where I, as a player, just kind of ask myself sometimes, how does these super gems make decisions? But at the same time, you cannot blame them. Playing such a big match on a big stage, sometimes your nerves just fails you. So this is a move I wouldn't make because I know I'll be giving this rook. Another thing you want to think about: rooks like open files. So why should I give the rook on b8 an open file, not just an open file, a target on b3? So I don't think I'm going to make this pawn move. So I think this is a hasty move, and this is one thing I normally say in my video: when you make a bad move or when you make a not so good move, that not so good move is going to lead you to making a blunder, guaranteed. So in this position, there is actually nothing for Ding Liren to be worried about. Just double the rooks on the d file. Just double the rooks. even find a way to exchange the bishop. I think double the rook, exchange the bishop, put pressure on the b4 pawn, and you're fine. But Ding Liren said, I'm going to just get this thing over real quickly. I want to go back to China. So he plays a4, captures, rook captures back. g6, very important. You created lofts. You got to make sure you defend your back rank. Queen to d4. This is where I knew that at this point, Ding is just trying to play for a draw again. Ding is just trying to play for a draw. I mean, and I saw a clip where he said he was really tired after the match starting. Really can't blame him. Ding Liren, you have really tried. You have really tried. So nothing against you. Gukesh just wanted this the more. He wanted this World Championship more. Gukesh, you've tried. Gukesh, Ding Liren, you've tried, and let's keep going. So Queen d4, Queen to b5, just like the previous games. Gukesh always tries to avoid exchanges because the more exchanges, the clearer the board, the easier it is to get a draw among these very strong players. So now my question is, what would be White's strategy? Now that you've given yourself a weak pawn on b3, and you have absolutely no other place to create play, so pretty much you are going to have to be defending the pawn on b3 for forever, pretty much. So, and with the queen on board, black can always switch or combine the attack of the pawn to an attack on your king. So I don't know. I don't know. b4 takes back, takes. Now, this wouldn't have been such a big deal if they had opposite colored bishops. It wouldn't be such a big deal. But with the same colored bishop is a different ballgame because a pawn it's a different ballgame. Because I can always use my bishop to force your bishop away from a diagonal or a square I'm trying to queen. But if it's an opposite color bishop, that can never happen. So, Ding Liren's strategy right now, I'm not so sure because it really made it easy for Gukesh to just win a pawn. How about bringing all the pieces to attack that a2 pawn that can be defended so many times, 3 times? I mean, you could defend the a2 pawn as many times as possible, as many times as it can be attacked. But with the b3 pawn, that's not the case. So, rook a8. Like I said, this is just in line with Ding Liren trying to just get a draw or something like that. But even after all this, it was still even until Ding Liren pretty much blundered. Rook a8 captures back. B g5. Anytime you're playing an ending with bishop of same color, if you have a light square bishop, put your pawns on the dark squares. If you have a dark square bishop, put your pawns on the light squares. Because if your pawn on the dark squares, and just like what Ding did, the bishop can never attack those pawns. So the only piece that can attack the pawn is either the rook or the king. So g5, very good move. And bishop to d5. Of course, another thing I'm going to say here: if bishop takes, rook take, that's just draw. That is just draw. Because now when we're talking about rook pawn endings, it's a totally different ball game. Sometimes even when you have 2 pawns, I mean, your the path trying to defend can actually get a draw. But with a bishop, same colored bishop, it's a little challenging. You can still get a draw, but it's just a little more challenging. So bishop to f5, rook to c1. Now the question I'm actually going to ask is, okay, what exactly is Ding Liren's plan in this position? Are you trying to win this position or are you trying to draw? Because it's very important you know exactly what you're trying to do. And when you do know that, stick to it. Just stay with it. Because if you start making any kind of moves, you're going to get in trouble somehow. And then you're going to have to blame yourself. Oh, why did I do that? So, rook to c1 was played. King to g7. Rook to c7, attacking the f7 pawn. Bishop goes back to defend. Rook comes to c4, trying to exchange the pieces. Now, and yes, trying to exchange the pieces. Check, king moves. Rook goes to e1. Nothing happening here. They were just moving pieces here. No targets, nothing. Think about it. No threats, just moving pieces. Just hoping somebody blunders, and that's exactly what happened. Just moving pieces, no targets. You know, If it were lower grade players making all this, we would say, why this guy is just playing anyhow. But these are super grandmasters. Nothing, no targets. So many moves, just moves. Now h5, trying to create a passport maybe, but then pawn takes doesn't get anywhere. Rook a4 attacks the bishop, moves the bishop back, moves the king. Nothing going on here. Nothing. Just piece moving. Just waiting for somebody to make a blunder, and which exactly what happened in the game. Actually, I would have preferred just rook here, just stay right here. Just stay right there. But anyway, bishop b7, king g5. I don't like that move. I don't like that move. I'm just gonna wait. I'm just gonna wait to see how he's going to. Just wait. Know what you're playing for, really. Just wait. You can even shuffle between these two squares. Actually, right now you can even just shuffle between the G1 and H2 square. Don't go to the light square because he has a light square bishop. There can always be a rook takes bishop bishop. You don't want no tricks. Just shuffle between this. This move f3 very unnecessary. Really, very unnecessary. Just wait. If he wants to win the game, let him come win the game. Let him show you how to win the game. F3, f5, pawn takes, rook to b4, bishop goes to f7. At this point, if I had the black white pieces, I don't know what the engine is going to talk about this, but let me see. It's still the same thing. I'll just bring the bishop to g2, just bring the bishop back home. Let the bishop come home. So I want to be able to go back and forth. Anytime you exchange these exchanges, and I'll bring my rook all the way back home. Then what to do? What to do really? But anyway, king moves to f2, check. King goes back. King moves to f6. Check. King comes back. Rook goes to g b4, stopping the f4 pawn push. Bishop goes to e6. Nothing. The bishop b1. Bring this bishop back here. Just bring it back here and just wait. But anyway, rook a4. Rook attacks the bishop. The bishop goes to a8. King goes back up. Rook goes to f4. King attacks the rook. I'm sorry. King attacks the rook. Yeah. But number one, you cannot take this because it's defended. So why not just bring this bishop back, my friend? Just bring this bishop back. And then he plays rook to f2. Blunders immediately. We should learn from all these things. And I say this a lot. There is no magic in chess. There are no magic, no nothing. Apart from what like theory wise and all that stuff. There's also the psychological aspect of the game chess. It's very important what you're playing for, and just stick to it. Because if you don't, bad things will happen. So now he makes a blunder, right? And the idea of this is still trying to exchange pieces, But what is this bishop doing on a8? I guarantee you, if this bishop was here, if rook takes, king takes back, bishop comes here, I'm just going to dodge you. I'm just going to come back. So anytime you push, take, bring the. This is just even. Think about this. This game actually decided who the world champion was going to be. I'm not impressed, really. I am not just impressed. Good job, Ding Liren. Good job, Gukesh. But come on, we cannot play chess like this. Rook f2 blunders, takes back, bishop exchanges, the other bishop. Now, like I said earlier, if there were opposite colored bishops, this is not going to happen. But now you can force the exchange of bishops, and I force the exchange of bishops, 2 against 1, and there is just nothing white can do about this. After the king 5, white resigned, and we have a new world champion, Gukesh from India. Congratulations to Gukesh, and yes, we are going to be. It's going to be so much talk, so much about this game. Now I think the score ended with 7.5 to 6.5. So congratulations to Gukesh being the new world chess champion. Congrats to Ding Liren for the fight. Nobody really expected Gukesh to come this far in this match. Nobody, people were thinking, oh, it's just going to be a wipeout. So yeah, we got to give kudos to Ding Liren as well. Even though it was really, he really struggled. He was really hesitant about the match and everything. But yeah, so we have a new world champion, and so that is it for the recaps for all the games played at the World Chess Championship. So we're gonna see you next time soon, very soon. Watch out for my recap on the Nigerian National Chess Championship, which is going on right now in Lekki, Lagos, Nigeria, and I think they're actually approaching maybe the second, or I think the second or the last round, second to the last round of the last round. All right, thank you again for being here. Let me know what you think about the video. Your comments, everything is appreciated. Talk to you soon. Take care and God bless. Bye for now.